We're joined today by Dan Miller. You are a Democratic candidate running for mayor of Harrisburg. However, you're on the Republican ballot. Can you, first of all, for the benefit of our statewide audience, explain your party affiliation and why you're running on the Republican ballot?
I would love to. That's a very confusing thing for voters, and I'd like to get that cleaned up as possible. Yes, I am a Democrat. I've been a Democrat for 40 years, whatever, and I've been elected as a Democrat as a city controller, city treasurer, city council, all of those offices. What happened in this primary, I was in the Democratic primary, and I lost by just a hair to our current mayor. At the same time that I lost on the Democratic side, the Republicans had no candidate. And so many of them wrote in their favorite candidate, which happened to be me. And so I won the Republican nomination. And so I could accept that, or if I didn't accept it, I'd sort of be out of the race. So it's the only way Harrisburg residents really had a choice. And so I did accept the Republican nomination. I have not changed parties. I'm still a registered Democrat. I'm the same guy I was in May. I'll be the same guy in November. It just happens to be that I'm on the Republican side. And what I think is good about that is really this is a runoff between the top two vote getters. It was a very close election. 65% of citizens, or the Democrats, voted against the mayor. I think people really do want change. I hear that all the time. So hopefully we can make that happen. And in a sense, we're going to have to thank the Republicans for putting me on the ballot.
What do you think it was about you that was attractive as a candidate to the Republicans?
Well, I think if you look at the two candidates, I'm by far the more qualified candidate, by education, I have a businessman, I started and founded my own successful CPA firm, ran it in Harrisburg for over 30 years. I have experience with hundreds of businesses. My experience, my knowledge, my background are all, vastly superior to my candidate, to Wanda Williams. And I think people see that, and I think Republicans may think that, I'm a fiscally responsible person. And I think being fiscally responsible, I think it goes across both Democrats and Republicans, but I think Republicans may think that's why I'm a better candidate for mayor.
Talk a little bit about why you're seeking to serve as mayor and what your vision for Harrisburg would be.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Service mayor?
Why would you like to serve as mayor, and what is your vision for the city of Harrisburg?
Harrisburg has what's called a strong form mayor government. And so I've been involved for 20 years, but I sort of feel like I've been on the sidelines because the mayor has all the power, really. I mean, city council has power, but it's the mayor who has the staff, has the administration, and really runs things. In that 20 years, it's so disappointing. We just haven't had good leadership. And I can see that in what's going on in the city. I mean, we're very poorly managed. We're very much behind the times. The administration is not really out to empower, I think, the employees. It's more like to suppress them. So much of what we do, it's been done this way for many years. People don't want to change. The world has moved on. We can be so much more efficient. And I see that. We see that in Treasury for almost 10 years. I've been trying to improve things and have been unable to do it because I haven't had the support of the mayor. And it just is, I don't want to get into too many details, but we know it. We see it. We see it every day. We see bad decisions. We see missed opportunities. And, I've retired from my CPA firm, and I feel like this is one shot I'm going to give Harrisburg. We can move us forward. We can empower people. We can empower the staff. We can empower the whole neighborhood and the whole city to move forward and see a real future as opposed to what's happening now. And I think that's why I've decided to step up to the plate right now.
You serve as city treasurer, previously as city controller, and you were active on city council as well. Can you talk a little bit about all of this experience and what that would bring to the mayor's office?
Well, I've done it all. I mean, I've been on city council. I know exactly how that all works. I know what it's. The thing about city council is I know what the relationship is between a council person, the other councilors, and the mayor. And in my experience, it wasn't necessarily positive because it wasn't collaborative. And it has to be back and forth. You have to talk to people. That didn't happen when I was on city council. It was basically, here's something on a Thursday or Tuesday afternoon, your meeting's Tuesday night, we want you to pass this. Well, that's not the way to really get things done. And so I think that I will have a great relationship with City Council because I've been there and I know we've got to talk. You've got to tell me what you like, what you don't like, and let's figure out what's best for Harrisburg and move it forward and agree on that. You know, as controller, I mean, I know what the controller's job is. I had a lot of good input in that. That was a time when Harrisburg was going through tremendous financial crisis. I had a plan that would have solved that for us. You know, unfortunately, that didn't get through because I think in retrospect, we all see that bankruptcy was by far the best thing that could happen. Because, you know, we see these articles where they're comparing Lancaster to Harrisburg. Well, you know, Harrisburg has two hands tied behind its back. We no longer have control of parking. We no longer have control of sewer and water. We no longer have control of the incinerator. All of those things are important for us to develop and move forward. Well, how can we compete when that's all been taken away from us? And it was all taken away because of really very poor financial management that we had for many years that put us in a position of being, you know, not exactly bankrupt, but we could not pay our bills. And so those are the kind of things that I can bring that can make the difference, that can move us forward, and can actually do things that are positive for Harrisburg.
If elected, what would your top priorities be?
Well, when I think about any city, I think what we need are safe streets, we need strong schools, we need stable finances, and we need business opportunities. So those are my priorities, but what I really want to do is I want to empower all the folks in Harrisburg to come to their fullest potential. I mean, we've got so many people that move into Harrisburg from other places. They're not necessarily well educated, you know, they're not necessarily financially secure, you know, so we need to help these folks learn the language. A lot of them don't even know English. So we need to get them to learn the language, learn a skill so they can get a good job, so they can buy a house, so that their kids can go to a good school, educate their children, and boom, what are they going to do? And then maybe they'll be the doctors and lawyers of the next generation. And all of that works positively for Harrisburg. We've got a lot of vacant land where we could build new homes. We have a lot of homes that are in disrepair, that need repair. These folks can do it and build those and fix those houses, live in those houses, and create a great life. I mean, I was just in a house with people from, you know, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, who come to America. You know, there's a bunch of people. It's a young family. They've got a lot of kids, but they're willing to work. They want to get a job. They want to learn the language. They want to assimilate. And so I think that's all positive for Harrisburg, and that's the force that'll move us forward.
Since you just listed schools as one of your top priorities, I'd like to refer to an editorial in Penn Live in early September. It compared the Masterman Secondary School in Philadelphia with the Harrisburg High School. U.S. News ranked Masterman first in the state. Harrisburg was ranked 522nd out of 672 schools. Both serve minority, low-income students. Why do you think there's a discrepancy, and what can you do to bring Harrisburg up?
Well, I can't answer why there's a discrepancy. I don't know who goes to Merriman School. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with parents. A lot of it has to do with expectations. And it also has to do with what's happening like in the lower grades before you get to high school. I mean, all of that is important. As you know, as mayor, I have no control over the school district, and I'm not trying to say I wouldn't be a cheerleader because I totally believe in public education. I think everyone needs the right and the desire to get in and get as well educated as they can, because I think people realize once they get out of school and they don't have that education, you know, that's a detriment for them. And what we have is the Tech Centro. I don't know if you're familiar with that in Harrisburg, where folks who maybe who are out of school have another second chance where they can go learn the language, learn a trade, and learn a skill. So I think that's really important. I wish I knew the answer to Harrisburg High School. It's really a very big drain on the city, because over the years, the past 20 years that I've been in office, you see so many people that live in Harrisburg, love Harrisburg, but as soon as they have a child, a lot of them leave because they don't want to put their child through this school district because it's ranked so low. So it is, you know, something we've got to really turn around, we've got to focus on, and I'm a cheerleader for them, and I'll do whatever I can to get Harrisburg High School off the bottom.
How would you describe the job climate in Harrisburg?
Well, Harrisburg is the center of government, and so actually I think we have more jobs in Harrisburg than we have residents. If you look at it in that global viewpoint, a lot of those people don't live in Harrisburg. And a lot of those jobs are for people who maybe have better education. So it's an interesting thing. We have a lot of jobs in Harrisburg. We need some jobs, though, that some of these other folks that are lower skilled jobs, so that when they do come to Harrisburg, they have a place to work, or they have the transportation to get to those jobs, so that they can survive and thrive.
What's your vision to build up the downtown area, particularly around 2nd and 3rd Street?
Well, we've seen it before, that it was a great place. And I've traveled a lot, in foreign, other countries. And, you go to any European city, even South American cities, you see pedestrian zones. And that's where the entertainment is, that's where the shops are, that's where the restaurants are. I think we need some more of that type of thing in Harrisburg. I think that's one of the things that would help bring it back. We have a great, beautiful river. We need to marry the river to the city and make it the center, the place where every young person in this 20-mile radius around Harrisburg wants to live. If I'm young and I'm out of college, where do I want to go? I want to go down to we need to make the city the place where they go. So we need to transform some of these office buildings into apartments that they can afford, so that they can be there, that there's life downtown, and it's an exciting place to go. Because there's no other place like it in this area, and we can do that. So I think doing that, getting businesses, and the other thing on businesses, I have been told repeatedly from businessmen that they want to come to Harrisburg, they want to work in Harrisburg. It's a lot of difficulty working with this administration, and if there were some changes made, I've been told business would flood in. So I do think there's real opportunities.
Over the summer, you criticized the trash forgiveness program. For those that may not be familiar, can you explain what the program is, what you find wrong, and perhaps what you would do differently?
Well, that's a really great question, because can I explain what's wrong? No, because there's not even a written policy. That's the number one thing wrong with this. This is a half-baked plan. And I'm not opposed to helping people during the COVID. And if we looked at 3 years of COVID, that would be about $1,200 of relief. This plan, it's just so half-baked, and it was implemented very poorly, because we're writing off balances up to $9,000. Well, obviously, that did not occur during COVID. There are people who have not paid for years, and it's really not fair to all those citizens who pay their regular trash bill every month, and that's most people. Most people do that. And suddenly, the mayor sends out a letter and says that if you made one payment, you can have your balance, wiped off. There's no accountability. There's no income verification. There's no requirements to keep your balance up after it's been written off. This plan was not well thought out. It's very poorly implemented. And that's the other thing. When you look at it, a lot of these folks that you're supposed to make one payment in the past 5 years, a lot of them never made a payment. A lot of them are landlords that live in New York City. What are we writing that off for? There's just so many problems with this that it looks like it was rushed right at the last minute to maybe, try to help satisfy some residents or something. I don't know why.
A portion of the Broad Street Market was destroyed in 2023 in a fire. If you were elected, what would you do to expedite the rebuilding?
Well, if I were mayor at the time, that's where you really have to go back to, because that's when you should have made it a priority. That's when we had the ability to make decisions to get that thing back up and running. And we see it almost next door at the governor's mansion. He had that problem. He had the ability to get that done. We had that. It's lagged on, and it's just been more problems. So it's a little difficult for me because, excuse me, I'm outside of that ball right now. But what I would do is get inside, and if I'm elected, and make sure that is a priority and get it moving and get it done as fast as possible. I was just at the Broad Street Market board meeting, and you can tell, the people that are really the most important are the vendors. This is their livelihood. And obviously, customers are very important, but those vendors are going to make sure the customers are number one, because that's how they get their livelihood. And vendors are very frustrated. It's a very bad situation, and we need to get it rectified immediately.
How would you characterize the crime situation in this city, and what would you do differently?
I think, obviously, crime is an issue in every city, and I think, as a city resident, I've experienced some crime or some shootings, whatever. But in general, I feel safe. I think most people feel safe, and I think that Harrisburg gets a bad rap because people say, "Oh, I can't go to the city." Well, that's not true. We live there every day. There are some issues. I wish I knew how to get these 16-year-old boys to stop shooting each other. And that's a real problem, and that's the type of thing that we need to do. I think a lot of it revolves around drugs. If we can get the drugs out of the city, I think that takes a lot of the violence away. And so those are the things I do. One of the things I have a community garden that I run, and it's between 4th and 5th Street in the 2200 block. And in that area, that's Woodbine, Emerald, there have been quite a few shootings in the past couple of years. My neighbors want cameras, and so I think that's a great, valid concern. And so I think if we could get some cameras up, we can identify these folks. We just saw it this past 2 days out in, I guess that was in Utah where that shooting is. When you have cameras, you can find out who it is, and then you can track that person down and get them off the street. So I know some folks have an issue with cameras because we know nobody wants to be surveilled all the time. But in my proposal, it's similar to Lancaster where it's run by a citizens committee. So it's not run by the police. So it does have a whole different aspect to it, but it's still there. It still allows us to get information and allows us to hopefully catch people and get them off the street.
What can be done to alleviate any real or perceived tension between the police force and Harrisburg residents?
Oh, that's about building trust, and that's about getting the police out to know the citizens and the same way. Frankly, I live in Harrisburg. I don't know that many police officers on a name basis, and that's the kind of thing. So if you don't know them, it's hard to really relate to them. Some of the problem is we're down in police force. With the whole bank, insolvency and then the strong plan, which I think was a terrible plan and the wrong name. It's the absolutely wrong thing. It was not strong. It made us weaker. And one of the weaker things it did was when they negotiated the contract for the police, they hurt the new guys coming in. They weren't there at the table, so those guys aren't getting the raises and getting the salaries. And so what's happened to Harrisburg? We can't keep anybody who's new, because we're not paying them as what they're paying them in other places. So they'll come to us and work for a couple years, and then they'll go somewhere else for $10,000 more. So those are all issues that have to be rectified, but that's about management. And those are the things that, if we had more police officers, they could be out more. They could know the folks in the city, and that people could get to know each other and have more trust and have that relationship that works.
What accomplishments are you most proud of?
Oh, gosh. Well, I had my own issues. I was fired for being gay 30-some years ago, and I think I'm proud of the fact that I just didn't knuckle under that, and I fought that, and we fought it, all the way to the Supreme Court. It was unjust. Back at that time, there were very few people who were out as openly gay. I'm not afraid to take a stand. I'm not afraid to take action. I'm not afraid to fight back. And so I'm really proud of that. The other thing is politically, what I'm proud of is that I'm so independent. And I think in a way it's hurt me because I never was able to get everyone behind me because they want something when they're behind you. That's not me. My base has been lots of individual citizens who know me, who know that I have integrity, that I'm independent, and then I'll work just for the city. I'm not working for somebody else. So planting trees. I'm really proud of planting trees. I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of many things.
You previously ran for mayor on the Republican ticket as well in 2013. What did you learn from that experience that you're taking with you this time around?
Let's clarify that. I did not run. Well, I maybe ran on the Republican ticket, but it's the similar thing, where. And I just had an email from some woman who was thinking it's some nefarious plot to get a Republican. It is not. I have no ties to the Republican Party. At that time, it was the same thing. I had no ties. It's just that the Republicans have no candidate. They wanted to have a say in the city elections, and they put me forward. And as a matter of fact, I declined the Republican nomination 12 years ago. There were 2 people running as independents. I cannot run as an independent because I was in the Democratic primary, so that's not a possibility. These other two folks ran. At that time, Eric Papenfuss knocked those people off the ballot. So there was no choice. So that's the only reason I came back. And I knew it's a very difficult thing to win in a Democratic city on the R side. I stepped forward to give people a choice. I did not step forward thinking I was going to win that election. That's totally different. This election is entirely different. It's the same thing I'm on because they put me forward. I didn't do anything to get it. But this was a very close election in the Democratic primary, and 65% of Democrats voted against the mayor. People want change. People need change. Businesses you can't imagine how many people have come to me saying we need to make change. We need to make a big change. And so I know it's very hard to do, to win on the Republican side, but I think people understand I am a Democrat. I'm a person who really is qualified and can make the real change we need. And so I think we're really going forward this time, and I've got great volunteers. We have 2 offices already open. We're doing lots of social media. We've got a plan, and it's a whole different race than it was like 12 years ago.
When you speak to residents of Harrisburg, what are the biggest issues that you hear in this race?
Here's what I hear. And it's people's experience with the current mayor. And frankly, it's my experience. I supported her 4 years ago. And I had just several things I wanted her to do. And these are positive things for the city. And what happened? She did none of them. She changed her mind, or she just ignored it. And she told me she was going to do these things, but then when she got into office, she did none. So that was my experience. What I hear over and over and over again is the exact same thing, where people say, oh, she said she's going to do this, and then she doesn't do it. So I think that's the issue, is that we have a mayor that's maybe not as honest as she could be, or doesn't follow through, or isn't getting anything done. And so, that's one of the issues. I think the other issue is the whole ethics issue. I mean, the mayor's under investigation by the State Ethics Commission. And we don't know what that's about because they don't release that, but that can't be good. She's also being sued by a former director for inappropriate firing, which, that's, and costing the city hundreds of thousands of dollars, on that. So this is bad management. So those are some real issues I think that people have. I think the thing is, this Broad Street Market, downtown, you can see that nothing's getting done. People want change. We need to move Harrisburg forward. And I really want to speak to the younger folks. They need to come out and vote because it's their city. If they can think 10 years from now what Harrisburg could be, we can get there, but we can't get there with this administration. We need change. And I think, Harrisburg has so much potential. It's such a great place. I'd like to see it get there.
You're a lifelong resident of Harrisburg, and as we've discussed, you've served in various public offices as well. What keeps you in Harrisburg?
Well, I like it. I mean, I actually have moved around after college. I lived in some of the places, and I wasn't always, and I grew up just outside the city. But basically, I always have felt Harrisburg's my home. And, I live in a beautiful house that I can afford in Harrisburg. I live less than a block from the river. This morning, I went running for 3 miles along the river. It's a great place. I have a very interesting neighborhood. It's diverse. I know a lot of different people there. You go up on the hill, it's so diverse up there with different restaurants and businesses. When I go back to my garden, it's a great place. I know all the neighbors. Again, it's a very diverse place. People are nice. People are friendly. Yeah, there are some problems, but that's not the majority of things. The majority is people are nice, they get along, and it's a very nice place to live. It's convenient. It's affordable. I have 3 people I just recently met that came from Phoenix, that came from New York City, that came from Cordoba, California, because they came to Harrisburg and fell in love with it, and the housing market is inexpensive. They bought a house here, and they like living here, and they like the people. So all of those things, I guess, keep me here.
Why should voters pick you as the next mayor of Harrisburg?
I'm by far the most qualified candidate. I'm the candidate that actually is independent, and no one's owning me. because I can move Harrisburg forward. I have the right vision. I mean, it's a vision to empower everyone to live their fullest life. And that's what we need to do. And I think the other thing is, that this is not a selling point that people understand, but Harrisburg city government is poorly managed. We can make it work for everyone. We can make it easy. We can make it more efficient. We can make it less costly. That gives us more resources to put into the potholes. And actually, we can fix the potholes if we're managed appropriately. You know, we can keep the street lights on. We can pay the police more. We can do all of these things, but it takes proper management. And you need someone who understands that and has that experience and can move Harrisburg forward and do all of these other things, can understand people's needs. Just like I think we need a credit union up on Dairy Street somewhere. Those people need to have funds. I've been talking to people up there that want to start a business. They need to get a way to get money. Well, let's get something up there. Let's listen to them and go do that. And I think that can be achieved. So I think I'm the guy that actually can get things done. I have the experience and the knowledge, and I think I can move Harrisburg forward.
We've been speaking with Dan Miller, a Democratic candidate running on the Republican ballot for mayor of Harrisburg. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Francine.